Kurt though. I'm out. I'm out. I'm out. I'm out. Welcome to Speak On It with Who You With Kurt though. I'm out. I'm out. I'm out. I'm out. Welcome to Speak On It with Who You With Kurt though. Welcome to Speak On It with Who You With Kurt though. I'm out. I'm out. I'm out. I'm out. Welcome to Speak On It with Who You With Kurt though. Welcome to Speak On It with Who You With Kurt though. I'm welcome. I'm welcome. I'm welcome. I'm welcome to Speak On It with Who You With Kurt though. Welcome to Speak On It with Who You With Kurt though. I'm welcome. I'm welcome. I'm welcome. I'm welcome to Speak On It with Who You With Kurt though. Welcome to Speak On It with Who You With Kurt though. I'm welcome. I'm welcome. I'm welcome. I'm welcome to Speak On It. Welcome to Speak On It. I'm welcome to Speak On It. Welcome to Speak On It. I'm welcome to Speak On It. Welcome to Speak On It. I'm welcome to speak. Welcome to speak. I'm 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 Who You With Kurt dog. Welcome to Speak On It with Who You With Kurt Dog. I'm Who You With Kurt Dog. Hopefully y'all having a great day today. I know I'm every day is a good day for me. I want to welcome everyone on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter. D Live is in the house, and also Anchor.fm is in the house. Y'all can live chat with us in the chat room. Hopefully we got our bugs fixed. I'm trying to see real quick before we go too far, because I know the other night came on, we're talking, having a good time, and then I was informed didn't have. Oh, we got sounds tonight, so we're good to go. So, welcome to the show. You can live chat with us in the chat room if this is your first time joining us live, because I read the comments about no sounds. I understand that. If this is your first time joining us live, please take the time out, click the like button, subscribe to the channel. And whichever platform you own, please get the hearts and the likes. Tonight, we're going to cover the stories that we was going to talk about the other day. Didn't get a chance to it. Troy Anthony Smocks out of Dallas. He took part of the January 6th Capitol Hill attack, and he got 14 months. Now, everybody else been getting flap on the wrist, but we're going to talk about that tonight. And then also, Arlington police said they found no evidence that Timothy Simpkins was bullied. And that's the suspect in the Timberview high school shooting. But also his attorney have other words to say about that too. So it's going to be a toss-up. One saying there's no evidence, another one saying it is evidence. I don't know what to believe, but we are going to follow that case. Then also, we're going to talk about the kids in Houston that was abandoned by their parents, and also the 9-year-old boy that was found. The skeletons was found in the house, and apparently the mother and her boyfriend had abandoned them for months. So we're going to hit on that a little bit tonight. Then we're going to talk about Kyle Rittenhouse, the judge in his trial. You gotta pay attention to this, because he do not want the two victims that was murdered by Kyle Rittenhouse. He do not want them to talk about they victims. Well, they are a victim, so they trying to do the narrative of how this trial go. So we're gonna hit on that tonight also. So hopefully you got your seatbelt on, y'all ready to ride with me. Uh, Not gonna be long, but it's definitely gonna be strong. And so you can also comment, or maybe it's something else you want us to speak on. Also, you can also put it in the comment. Well, and don't forget, you can always call in 972-5 3665 972-591-3665. So this actually came out I believe it was on Friday. Um, the FBI charged the Dallas man in connection with making threats regarding the riot at the U.S. Capitol on Wednesday, January 6th. Troy Anthony Smocks, 58, was charged by criminal complaint with knowingly and willfully transmitting threats in interstate commerce, according to an FBI news release Friday, January 15th. Um, so he's the third suspect arrested regarding the Capitol riot who lived in North Texas. The arrest affidavit alleged Smoke traveled to Washington, D.C. area on January 5th. The FBI said he used a Pollard social media account under the name Colin T. Perez or Colin 007 to post threats on January 6 and 7 regarding the riot. The threats include that he and others uh, will return to the U.S. Capitol on January 19th carrying weapons and massing in numbers so large that no army could match them. The FBI says Mark said he and other would hunt these cowards down, like the traitors that each of them are, especially threatening rhinos, Dems, and tech executive. The threats allegedly issued by Smart were viewed by other social media users tens of thousands of times. The ATF and FBI continue to urge the public to report suspicious use of explosive device and violent destruction act associated with the recent unrest. Anyone with information, call 888 ATF tips. Or email them ATF tips at atf.gov, and you can do that without being recognized. Now, here's the key to this. Now, I know Miss Risky and I, we talk about it all the time about the difference between black laws and white laws. Well, this brother, what he did was wrong. Taking part of that January 6th, taking part of uh, allegedly putting out these threats or anything like that. Everybody who took part in January 6th was wrong, but they also need to be held accountable. Now, I said a long time ago that when it come down to these type of people, to the response that the judge has been having for some of these folks, giving them a slap on the wrist, uh, and Warren aligned the lady out of Texas to go on a retreat with her company earlier this year. That was during our ice storm. The same time when Ted Cruz decided to go to Cancun, just so happened and she was there that same weekend for a so-called business retreat. But nobody talking about that. And then also the grandmother, they give her time served and she didn't spend no time, gave her probation. I'm like this, it don't make a difference who you are or what you did. You went into Capitol Hill trying to overturn our government. You need to be held accountable. You are committing treason and you shall be held like a terrorist just like anybody else. Now, for this brother, I think he's probably going to say, well, I'm not getting treated properly. For the simple fact, you got 14 months. Everybody else get a slap on the wrist. Well, guess what? You don't look like everybody else. And now I hope you understand that it's a difference between black laws and white laws while you following certain group of folks. You can't be black and do the same thing what our white counterparts do and expect the same type of treatment. It was wrong either way what either one of you have done, for the simple fact you never should have went there trying to overthrow our government. And all of them made threats talking about kill Pence, looking for Nancy Pelosi. All of it is a threat. A lot of you went to social media saying this is the best day of my life. Well, now that you having to sit in prison for this time, I guess it's going to be the best time you sat in prison while Big Bubba is rubbing your back. So the thing is, you need to be accountable for the actions that you have done, and the judges need to give them all the proper time Don't give them a flap on the wrist based on the color of their skin. It's the whole act that they did all together. And that's the problem I have, because when it's dealing with certain group of folks, they get him a flap on the wrist and act like everything is okay. But instead of holding these folks accountable, because they're going to feel like they could continue doing the same thing over and over again. So, Mr. Smock, I hope you enjoy your 14 months in prison. Unfortunately, though, Judge, they didn't give you the time that they gave your counterparts, the ones that you was running with, as they've been doing with everybody else. Yeah, all of you made a threat to American all together, because you try to overthrow our government. And the problem is they all need to be held accordingly and held accountable for their action. So have fun in jail. Get your hair braided by Big Bubba while he rubbing your back. So I'll holler at you. Welcome to the show, T Cal. Thank you for tuning in, and thank you for always supporting the show. If it's your first time, you can actually chat with us just like T Cal and anyone else. If it's your first time listening, please take the time to like the page, subscribe to it, whatever platform you are on. We're on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, D Live, and we also record the shows for Anchor.fm, where you can always subscribe to Anchor.fm, catch the shows on the go. Just a low fee of $2.99 per month, and we do other shows besides these on Anchor.fm. So, and if you have a subject you want us to talk about on Anchor.fm, let us know. It's no boundary on those shows. Well, it is boundaries, but we will talk about different things than what we talk about here. So definitely let me know how y'all feel about Troy Anthony Smock, 58 years old. Now he's going to spend the next 14 months in prison for his action of the January 6th attack on Capitol Hill. Now, they try to sugarcoat it and say, oh, they were just upset. No, they attack America, the greatest country in this world. They attacked it. You need to hold them accountable. If it was any other terrorists that done that, you will hold them accountable. But instead, y'all letting these folks go on family vacation, go out of the country, and all of this. And I said then, when it happened, I said, look, folks gonna realize you can't do that. You can't do the same thing and get the same treatment as your white counterpartners, for the simple fact they're gonna look at your skin and they already feel like you're a threat because of the color of your skin. And because of that, he's getting 14 months. That's his fault. Never should have been there. Y'all allowed Trump to brainwash you to do these type of things, and that's on you. You made that choice. I don't feel bad for neither one of you, but I feel like they need to be held accountable and get the appropriate time in prison like you would any other terrorist. That's my opinion about it. Because the thing is, if I go out here and commit a crime, guess what? They're not gonna give me a slap on the wrist. They're gonna hold me accountable. Welcome to the show, Jackson Kramer. What's up, brother? Long time since I last came on your channel, just tuning in. So give me a few to get caught up. Looking forward to asking some challenging but respectful questions. It's all for it. I'm all for it. Trust me, any stories that we talk about on here, we done our research on them. And somebody may not agree with what I'm saying, and it's cool. It's cool. And that's why we live in the greatest country in the world, because we had a right to agree and disagree. And it's all right. Some people may support Mr. Smock, but at the same time, he did wrong. He did wrong. I feel like if you're gonna give him a longest sentence for making a threat, well, all of them made a threat on our democracy. What's the difference? One sin is not greater than the other sin. They all made a threat to our democracy. Um, hey, I feel you. I feel you. So it's definitely that's poor decision by him, and that's all it is. Excuse me. Our weather is changing quite a bit. So one day it's hot, one day it's cool, one day it's windy, and we're expecting rain tonight. So it's my throat is all over the place, allergies messing up and everything. But that's my opinion about Mr. Smock. I don't feel bad for you. Should have been more time. If it was anybody else came to our country and attacked our country, they would get life, regardless if you was did anything inside of Capitol Hill. You had no rights to be there, none whatsoever. Everybody should be held accountable. Stop giving these people flap on the wrist. Excuse me. um so another story we're gonna hit on real quick, which is, I hate to hear stuff about kids, and um and this is very disturbing. I've seen the story come across yesterday, or I came across Sunday night, and I didn't really look at it till yesterday. But apparently, a mom, I guess she abandoned her kids, and now I have my opinion about it because once I read it, got more into it, I'm like, okay, somebody need to say something. Should have said something, but they say mom released after three children found in Texas apartment with skeleton remain. A 15-year-old boy reported the body of his 9-year-old brother was in the room next to his. The Harris County Sheriff Office said the child had been dead for a year. He told authorities for a year. Um, Three abandoned children and a skeleton remained of a fourth person, who was likely their sibling, were found Sunday in an apartment west of downtown Houston. Authorities said the Harris County Sheriff Office got a call from a 15-year-old boy who reported the body of his 9-year-old brother was in a room next to his. The agency said in a statement the boy had been dead for a year, and the parents have not lived in the apartment for several months, the teen told the sheriff office, according to the statement. When deputy arrived, they found the remains of a small child, which appeared consistent with the age provided by the 15-year-old and two other boys in the house under the age of 10. The sheriff office said the boy appeared while nurse showed sign of physical injury and were brought to a hospital, according to official. Authority located the mother of the children and her boyfriend. Harris County Sheriff Ed Gonzalez said Monday morning that they had been interviewed and released. No charges has been filed, and the investigation is ongoing. Um, but reading another uh, article, it said that the young kids relied on neighbors to get food. They relied on their neighbors to get food. Now, now, I don't know if a child in my community coming to get food and coming to get food and they parents are not around. I'm gonna ask questions. I'm gonna ask questions like, "Hey, of course I will provide food for them, but also I need to know where your parents at, where you come from." And maybe the neighbors didn't want to get in a business, but for a year, the kids been relying on on the neighbors to get food. And I would assume that somebody had been paying the rent. I don't know if they have to pay electricity in this apartment complex, but apparently somebody been paying that if they had to pay it. But nobody thought about the fact it's one child missing. Nobody thought about that fact. That's why you have to know what's going on in your community. Not saying being in people business, but if you see something that's out of the ordinary, you might want to check to make sure. That's why that term say, check up on your neighbors. I know during the summertime in the hot months, one of the first things they say, check up on your neighbors. Um, or during the wintertime, check on your neighbors, your family members. But in this situation, these kids been looking for food for over a year, and no one thought to check to see what's going on. Um, the mother and her boyfriend was released once they was questioned by the police, and not sure what's going on, who they investigating, or what happened. Um, so definitely, that's the story we're gonna have to keep an eye on. And Ed Gonzalez, I know I haven't been tied up, haven't had a chance to reach out to you yet. But we also need to know about the brother that was killed in your jail back in February. We need an update on that also. So I will be reaching out to you soon because we need to know, and that family need closure as well. Um, so we definitely will be doing that. Um, Jackson Kramer said it is possible that their local community, like you said, um, not wanting to get in their business or never mind. You mentioned rent and electric. Kurt Dog one, Kurt Dog one, Jackson Kramer zero. Well, it's not about taking score. It's definitely not about taking score, but it's the fact that as things go into play. I don't know what type of apartment this is. If it's low income, maybe it was automatic billing where the state paid for it automatic. But even then, I know people with low income, they have counselors that got to come out. What about the kids not being in school? Because in Texas, the kids are back in school. So that's another concern. Um, no, I feel you. Um, um, so it brings up questions of what's really going on. I don't know if the parents was on drugs. Don't know. What about other family members? Because for a year nobody missed this child, and it's just one of those things. Um, I see what you said. So I'm glad he came back. It's been a while since he came in and trolled. But Gabe, welcome to the show. I know you down in Houston saying let's go, Brandon. So 9 times out of 10 they finna start trolling, which that's cool. I know how to deal with that. But um so I'm just kind of curious. I have no idea. I have no idea what happened in that situation. It's just kind of suspicious. It's suspicious to me, and um, wish I knew more about it. But they are still investigating this case, and I go from there. So right now, everything is up in the air. Don't know what's what, but just got to wait around until they get finished with the investigation, and more information will come out. But for the mother and the boyfriend abandoned the kids for several months, that throws up a red flag. Why? What's going on with the mother for her to abandon the kids for a couple of months? but they saying this child been dead for a year. So apparently the mother and the boyfriend was there when this happened, but they've been gone for a couple of months. So that's going to be kind of interesting to know exactly what's going on. If you are just now tuning in, you are listening to Speak on It with Kurt Dog. Definitely take the time to like this. Whatever platform you on, subscribe to, or click the notification for whenever we come on live. You can join us live. You can live chat with us. You can also call in 972 591 3665 972 591 3665. But it's a couple of rules if you call in. One, the main rule, please do not block your number. I will not answer. The second rule, be respectful. If you call in disrespecting, my hang up game is real strong. So, other than that, we can have a decent conversation and we can talk, um, and go from there. So don't be afraid. I don't bite. I don't call you back or anything like that. So and so you could definitely call in if you choose to. We could talk about subjects that we're talking about tonight, or if it's something else that is on your mind, we could talk about that. But the two main rules: do not block your number and be respectful. Um, Other than that, we're all good. So uh, we're gonna move on just a little bit. Hold on, let me do this real quick before I run out of time. Uh, you are listening to Speak On It with Who You With Kurt Dog. I'm Who You With Kurt Dog. Um, we're talking about so far. We talked about Troy Anthony Smug. That's in the first session on Anchor, and now we're talking about the four kids. One that was deceased, been deceased for over a year, that was found in Houston on Sunday, and the police is investigating the case. Um, Jackson Kramer said, "Good call on the community. I live in the Northeast. I know when someone 20 miles away has a domestic incident, it's plastered all over the internet. How can kids in the neighborhood be left alone?" Um, oh no, no, you did not jitter me. Trust me, I'm used to this. So everybody have their own opinion. I'm just saying the fact that nobody paid attention to this for over a year, for at least a year. And I'm concerned about the kids. No one, uh, no one from the school or anything contact the family, check on them, did a welfare check. Nothing, nothing was said, and that's a concern to me. That's a problem. And to find out that the mother and boyfriend just abandoned them a couple of months ago, and this child been deceased for a year, that's a problem. And the malnourishment that is going on, um, it 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 it's just strange to me. No one thought about this. I know I cannot um, live with myself because in my community, yeah, I go to work, I come home. The time I go to work, I don't really see nobody. By the time I get home, everybody is pretty much already at home, and I have several neighbors I talk to, and we communicate. Um, but if something is going on, if like, hey, something going on in the community, let's share it. Let everybody know, for we can all keep a lookout for each other. But if I go around, matter of fact, I was talking to my neighbor earlier, and I was telling him, I said, uh, hey, I know every day about such and such time you let your kids come out ride their bikes, because I get alerts on my phone all the time, which is no problem. But if all of a sudden that stop, I'm gonna be like, hey, what's going on? Everything okay? Because I'm accustomed to them doing this. So if it all sudden stop and I don't see them for uh, a couple of days or a week or two, I'm gonna ask question, what's going on? What's going on? Everything okay? I haven't seen your kids out in a while. Are y'all okay? Ask questions. So that's what I mean about if you see something that is out the ordinary, you definitely need to um, communicate with your community. And the biggest thing, the kids been um, depending on the neighbors to get them food, and the neighbors didn't realize how malnourished they look. That's a problem. So that's going to be a big concern, and going to be interesting how this case come out. Now, for me personally, I would say uh, the mother probably get charged with child endangerment eventually because they did abandon the kids. Now, it's not the boyfriend responsibility, but it's that mother responsibility. So it's a possible chance that she will get charged for child endangerment for leaving them at home and just basically get up and leave. And they said it was possible abuse too. So that's gonna all fall into play when it's all said and done. But since we are talking about uh, Gabe, we're going to talk about that a little bit later because I know that's going to be a long topic. He asked, "What do you think about the Rittenhouse stuff for those that were killed victims?" Anybody of violence is victims. Um, so we will discuss that later because I know that's gonna be a long topic. So Jason said community and church are important, but promote religion by the church. Well, everybody. I'm a Christian. I'm a Christian, so I believe in serving and giving back to the community. If I can help someone, that's what I'm gonna do. But unfortunately, um, and definitely I'm gonna say because of the pandemic, some churches don't have stopped serving. My church, our church, Friendship West Baptist Church, uh, where the senior pastor is Dr. Frederick D. Haynes III, we've been serving throughout this pandemic. Still feed the VIP every Sundays. Talking about hot meals. I'm not talking about little cold sandwiches. They get a fresh hot meal every Sunday. They get clothes and everything. Um, so it's definitely uh, the community definitely need to step up. I agree with you. They do. Um, don't freeze up. Oh no, I'm not. Everybody's subject to violence or victims. Okay, we'll deal with that once we get to that subject. But also, an update came out the other last week on the Arlington school shooting, Timberview High School shooting, and basically, um, Arlington police chief came out said no evidence of bullying. Arlington Police Chief speak at Mansfield ISD community meeting on Timberview school shooting. Um, he actually briefed the community on the investigation, sharing that they found no evidence that the suspect was bullied. Mansfield ISD held the community conversation Thursday night, 2 weeks after the shooting at Timberview High School. 4 people was injured in the shooting, and suspect faced charges, aggravated assault with a gun since the shooting. Mansfield ISD has taken several steps to improve security within the district. The district is adding more police on campus, training more staff, and helping the security measure, adding random classroom check, using metal detected wands, and reestablishing Um, its school safety committee. Some parents express frustration that the district has not done more to protect students, while others praise the district for their efforts and response. Arlington Police Chief briefed those in attendance about the ongoing investigation. Chief Al Jones said they found no evidence that the suspect was bullied. We can't and we won't say that there was any evidence of bullying that day or any other day, Chief Jones said. I also want to say with certainty that Mr. Simpkins is involved in high risk activities and that high risk activity led to the disagreement in the community. Mansfield ISD posted more about their response and resource to those impacted on the website. Now, here's the key to that. Um, I don't know who to believe, who not to believe. They saying it's bullying. Police chief say it's not. Saying high risk activity. I don't know if that's true or not. But at some point, the truth is going to come in because both sides are saying different things. The attorney for for the young man, Kim Cole, is saying something completely different, saying no, we have emails, text messages, Snapchats, all type of communication of bullying. Now I don't know what the situation was. Now I know some people have said that the day before the young man was robbed. That's why he had the gun there. But also, if that is the case, was a police report filed? Now, I don't know what to believe, what not to believe, but I do know one thing for sure. And I've said it last time. This young man brought a gun to school. And the question is, did the school do enough to protect the kids at that school? I feel like they didn't. Why? Because when you go to the schools in mainly the black community, you see metal detectors in it. That's all across this world, all across the U.S. You see metal detected in schools where there's mostly black students there. But because Timberview is a diverse school, they feel like they don't need them. Most of these school shootings that we see um, was in upper class communities, and they don't have metal detectors. So you got to look at the fact you paying for. I seen a news article where they have dogs coming through the schools. A private company own these dogs. They come in and see if they find any drugs, guns, or anything like that. Now you paying all that money. Why don't you invest in metal detectors in all schools? That'll give a sense of protection for the kids at least. But then you also need to be concerned about people letting them in through other doors. So you can spend that money wisely instead of spending this money over a period of time. Now, I've always said detectives need to be in schools because even when I grew up, I think when I was in high school, I think we had at least one school shooting. It was after school, but it was at least one. But still, it should not happen. And I don't know how many more school shootings that have to take place before they do something. Matter of fact, I was talking to someone, and I think the next day, and see, that's the difference. The very next day in Dallas, allegedly, there was a threat at a school in Dallas the next day. And I believe they found weapons in a field next to the school, and they did arrest the student that, and I believe they had a weapon on them. I didn't hear anything about it until I talked with someone. We talking about it, and they was like, "Yeah, at such and such school, this is what happened." So Would it work? It would help out. I think it'll be a hell of a lot cheaper than having these dogs come to these schools. Y'all hiring these private companies to bring dogs in, training them, and all of this. I think it need to be more security at the school and anything to protect the schools. So yes, we definitely need to do more to protect our students. Gabe said dogs go into nearly all schools that are public on occasion. They probably do, cause time have changed from when I came up. So they probably do have them go in randomly, but I know they will have them come in and search lockers and stuff like that for like drugs and stuff like that. But either way, this should never happen. School shootings should not happen. If they do it the right way, get metal detectors, protecting the students, and go from there. That's how it should be done. Now, I'm gonna tell you, uh, Mr. Clark from what was that movie? Um, Golly, it's on the tip of my tongue. But when he chained up those doors and just had one door unchained, they said it was a fire hydrant. But as you think about that movie, that made sense because that school dealt with a lot of drugs. You have random folks just going up in the school, coming in different doors, drug deals going down. But if you make it where maybe a teacher that is close by that door have a key to unlock it if something happened, whatever y'all got to do, y'all need to come up with a better way of protecting the kids. Now, as for Mr. Smithcomb, I don't know if he was bullied or not. Um, I don't agree with him taking a gun to school, and that's something that should never happen. But he's going to be held accountable. And if there's no record of him being bullied, guess what? They're going to throw the book at him. So, um, yeah. How much time we got on Anchor? Hold on, see if I want to. Yeah, we can start it. So I know Gabe only come around when I talk about Trump or Kyle Rittenhouse, which is cool. Um, so we're going to talk about Kyle Rittenhouse. This actually um, came out earlier today or yesterday, but it came out yesterday. But the judge that is over his trial set the ground rules on evidence use of force expert. Um, so Kanisha Washington, a Wisconsin judge, laid out the final ground rules on Monday. What evidence will be allowed when Kyle Rittenhouse goes on trial next week for shooting three people during a protest against police brutality, ruling he a permanent testimony from the defense, use of force expert, and how people welcome Rittenhouse and other carrying guns during the demonstration. Rittenhouse sat silently in the courtroom, and his defense team and prosecutor argued the last minute motion. What both sets of lawyers can and can't say in the course of the trial was the subject of intense debate. The 18-year-old is charged with killing two men and seriously injuring another during sometime violence protests in Kenosha after the Jacob Blake shooting in August 2020. The then 17-year-old patrolled the street with a AR-15 type weapon. If more than one of them were engaged in arson, looting, I'm not going to tell the defense you can't tell them that, the judge said. The judge also ruled that the two deceased men and the injured man could not be referred to as victims. The word victim is a loaded word, he said. Alleged victim, it is it is a cousin to it. Rittenhouse attorney won't use a force expert John Black to testify that Rittenhouse acted in self-defense. Prosecutor have asked Judge Bruce Scruton to block Black's testimony, arguing that jury don't need an expert to understand what happened that night. Scruton told the attorney that Black wouldn't be allowed to testify about what Rittenhouse was thinking when he pulled the trigger or whether he definitely acted in self-defense. I'm almost certain I'm not going to permit an opinion from anybody on the ultimate fact of the case, he said. Assistant District Attorney Thomas Binger said if Schroeder allowed Black to testify only about the timeline of event that night, he wouldn't call his own expert to the stand. Defense attorney Mark Richard agreed to the deal. Bigger asked Schroeder to borrow a video that shows police telling Rittenhouse, another armed militias member on the streets, that they appreciate their presence and tossing Rittenhouse a bottle of water. The prosecutor said the video would transform the trial into a referendum on police procedure that night when it isn't relevant. This is a case about what the defendant did that night, Binger said. I'm concerned this will be turned into a trial about what law enforcement did or didn't do that night. Defense attorney Corey Shafasa argued the video shows that police felt Rittenhouse wasn't acting reckless. Bigger countered that the shooting happened after Rittenhouse interacted with the police was going to decide to allow the video. If the jury is being told if the defendant is walking down the sidewalk and doing what he claimed he was hired to do, and police say, "Good thing you're here," is that something influenced the defendant and emboldened him in his behavior? That would be an argument, a reference, the judge said. Jury selection began 1 week from today, and the trial is expected to last at least 2 weeks. Um, my opinion about it. Um, oh, Jackson said Cal is innocent. A white guy shoot a white guy who was running after him to grab his firearm. The other white grabbed the barrel, pulling the gun away from him, and essentially firing the gun himself. Um, some people argued that, but Kyle Rittenhouse never should have been there. He came from a whole nother state to come there. So if he would have been at home, it wouldn't have happened. And then on top of that, now according to the friend that purchased that AR-15 for him, um, that purchased that gun for him, said that Kyle Rittenhouse took that gun without his knowledge. Now, Kyle Rittenhouse argued um, that they was called to come there to protect business. I want to know who called the child to come and protect their business, because that's the issue within itself. You're gonna call a child to come out and protect your business that is not licensed, that probably don't know enough about the guns to even do it properly, and the mindset of it, he don't know how to handle himself in certain situations. Now, yeah, I did see the video where he was chased. So the first guy that chased him, yes, Kyle Rittenhouse did shoot him, and unfortunately, he lost his life. But that second guy, they was trying to stop him. The two other two guys, they was trying to stop him from getting away. Now, when the police seen him walking down the street with his gun in his hand, and the crowd is saying, "Hey, he just shot somebody," they waved at him and kept going. Now, the question is, if that would have been a black man. And what the police come up when they first seen him with the gun, what they have came up and told them, "Hey, I'm glad you here." Now, take in mind this is past curfew. Also, this is also past curfew. Would he have came up and said, "I'm glad you here," and tossed them a bottle of water past curfew? I don't think they would have. It wouldn't have been the same result. So, especially if it was a black guy, because that cop, if it was a black guy, he probably would have got shot. Just call it like it is. He probably would have got shot. Now, with that being said, um, Rittenhouse never should have been there and never should have been in that position. Um, Now, if a black guy was murdered and a black guy showed up to protest but had a gun to protect himself and someone grabbed the barrel and you would see it justified? No. I don't care what color they are because Rittenhouse never should have been there. If Rittenhouse was black, he still never should have been there. With or without a gun. He came from a different state, claiming he was coming to protect business. He was called there to protect those business. So I don't care what color they are. It's the fact that it never should have happened in the first place. And then I believe the police chief even said they got a call asking about a permit for them to do this. Uh, he came out with a statement about it right after it happened. So he was aware they received the call, but he also made it known they would not approve anything like that. But apparently, those officers thought differently because they praised him for being there. They praised him for being there. So that's one of those situations where it was miscommunication on the police department. He was there past curfew. He should have actually been taken off the street right then and there. He never should have been allowed to stay there. They never should have gave him water or anything. They should have said, "Hey, why are you here?" And it was past curfew, so actually they should have arrested him. Or they should have at least ID'd him. And they would have known he was from a different state. So that's what they should have done. Uh, Said, "Come on, really? It was a clean shot. Forget race, black, white, brown, doesn't matter. Take the race out of it." Well, you can say take the race out of it, but the reality of it, if Kyle Rittenhouse were black, do you think the police would have gave him the same treatment? He's walking around past curfew with a gun. Do you think it would have been different? We got to look at the beginning of it, because if the police would have enforced the curfew, let's just say enforced the curfew, Cal Rittenhouse wouldn't have been there. He never would have been there if they would have enforced the curfew. So because they didn't enforce it, this is the results from it. And for the police to go and say, "Oh, we're glad you're here," giving them water, it's like they encouraging him. They were praising him for being there. But that's not how you do. You can't pick and choose which which way you're gonna do it. You gotta definitely go with the fact that, hey, you have a curfew. That curfew affect everyone. You don't pick and choose who you're gonna enforce the curfew on and don't enforce it. It should go across the board. Now with the shooting, the first shooting, yeah, he didn't provoke it. because he was being chased. He was being chased, got chased into a corner, didn't know what was going to happen. But once he did shoot him, and the other people came around him trying to stop him, then that's completely different. They trying to stop him, telling the police he just shot somebody. They just pass by and wave, which is wrong. Um, Gabe said, shit, the people that wanted him there were 100% afraid of their business, and they were right to be. Well, the problem is, if they was wanting to protect their business, they should have hired a professional to do it and not a child. Not a child, a professional. But instead, that's kind of like taking your car to a bootleg mechanic because you're going to get a cheaper price on it. They should have hired a professional to do it. Stand by. You're listening to Speak On It with Kurt Dog. We are talking about the Kyle Rittenhouse trial that is getting ready to come up, with the fact that the judge said he do not want them to refer the two people that was killed as victims in his trial, but he will allow them to say looters and rioters and all of that, but not as victims. So we're talking about the Kyle Rittenhouse and discussing that. If you're just not tuning in, please take the time, like, shares, subscribe to the page, whichever platform you are on. Definitely take the time to do that. And click the notification for whenever we come on live. You can join us live. You can always chat live with us in the chat room. And you can also call in 972-591-3665, 972-591-3665. But we ask that you do not block your number. I won't answer. And I ask that you be respectful. We all have our own opinion. We're not going to agree on everything, and that's cool, but we can have an open discussion about things. So Gabe just asked the question, said, well, shit, people that wanted him there were 100% afraid of their business right to be, but that did not give him the right to hire a child. When you have security, you have to have a bond for that security firm. And that bond, that insurance, is either going to be a commission or a non-commission security bond. And the difference between the two, non-commission, you're not allowed to carry a weapon. Commission is a higher rate, which you are allowed to carry a weapon. On top of that, it's only for that property. Only for that property. You can't, is somebody doing something across the street? You have no rights to going over there. That's why you hire a professional and not a child. And that if those owners actually called him to come do it, yes, they will be held accountable eventually. But uh, I think it was just one of those things. He claimed he was there to paint walls and get stuff off of buildings, and but why you need a gun for that? You 17. You carrying an AR-15, and the friend was charged for purchasing that weapon for him, which he should have been. Um, yeah, it was a lot of people out there, but that still give you no right. He's not a law enforcement. He's not. Uh, he's not licensed to do that type of work. You don't call a child to do a man's job or do a grown person job, because there's a lot of female security officer and policemen. You don't call a child to do that because mentally that child probably sit up and play um, video games where you shooting up and all of this, and then turn around, somebody do something wrong, they think it give them the rights to do it. And that's not it. That's the reason why Cal is going on trial now. For the simple fact, he never should have been there. He never been should have been put in that position. And then let's not talk about the fact that after he was arrested, he did not want to give um, the prosecutors his correct address, the court his correct address for a while. He didn't give them his correct address, which was part of his release, part of his bond. Then he was in a bar, hanging out with some other people from different groups and holding up they symbols and all of that. So you can't tell me that he didn't know what he was doing. He was a child, but his mindset is not grown enough to know the difference between right and wrong. And regardless if somebody is chasing you, of course, someone chase you back into a corner, you don't know what's going to happen. But if it was done correctly, we wouldn't be talking about him today. And unfortunately, he took two lives and injured another person that is scarred for life. And he going to be held accountable for it. But this judge saying, do not call the victims victims. Well, what do you call them? He's trying to narrow the case by calling them routers and looters and all of this to make the jury think that's what they did. But that do not justify the fact of what Cal did. And because of that, Cal shall be found responsible for it. He made that choice to go there with this AR-15, something that he got illegal, and I know you're probably going to say it wasn't illegal. It was illegal because his friend bought it for him, which never should have purchased a gun for a child, and especially not a high power rifle like that. Then, secondly, assault rifle. Secondly, his friend said he didn't even know he had the gun. He didn't know he took it from his house. Now, I don't know. AR-15 is not something small enough you could put in your pocket. And the friend is saying he had no idea he grabbed it from his house. Well, where did he put it? Where you didn't know. So, either way, he need to be held accountable for it. Like I say all the time, you do the crime, you do the time. If you didn't put yourself in that position, in that situation, you would not have been chased by the first guy. And then the second guy is trying to stop you after you shot and killed the first one. Then you shot and killed one of them. And then you shot the other one, I believe, in the arm. I believe not quite sure, but I think I've read a report when it first happened that uh, the guy arm had to be amputated. But either way, it's not right for him to. He never should have been there. Nobody in their right mind would call a child to come and do a grown person job. You're not gonna take a brand new Cadillac to a shade tree mechanic to get work done to it. You're going to take it to somebody who specializes in it. You're not going to go and get a shortcut on getting that oil change that can cost you your motor. So that's what I'm talking about. Uh, so catch up on some of these. Jackson Kramer said nonsense. It's all white on white. If it was black on black, I would be the same. If it was black on white or white on black, it would be different. But it's not. Same race all over. No, I'm like this. When it come down to that, I call out what I see the difference. I feel now I'm talking about strictly the police action. When they first seen him before the shooting, if that was a black man, they would have stopped all of that. They would not allow him to stay there. They would not allow him to have that rifle. They would have did a background check, and he probably would have been arrested because it was past curfew. But when the cops came up, they threw him water saying, "Oh, we appreciate you being there." I don't see them doing this for a black man if Kyle Rittenhouse was black. I don't see them doing that type of things. So because he was white, they felt it was okay. He having a AR-15, he wasn't a threat. Now, unfortunately, the reason why the protest was going on anyway, because a black man was shot in the back, an unarmed black man was shot in the back because of a police officer. And he's trying to get in his car, and the guy shot him in the back. And they allege it was a weapon in the car, but they never found the weapon. So that's the reason why I say it would would have been different from that point. Now, as for the guy chasing him, if it Kyle Rittenhouse was black, he got to defend himself. He defended himself, shot him. But the second one, when they trying to stop him from leaving, because he just shot and killed someone, then he shot someone else and killed them and wounded another person. So it wouldn't be the same. I just don't see it being the same because once the police would have seen him, if he was a black man, that would have been the end of it. We wouldn't even be talking about it. It would have been a different headline on that. Uh, no, nobody tried to stop him in the half second he pulled the trigger. Nobody could stop him. Right or wrong, not enough time. It's been a while since I looked at the video, but from what I recall, they was chasing the second chase. The second chase, they were chasing him down to stop him from leaving the scene of a crime, and that's when he shot the second guy. The first one, I'm on the fence of it, but I would say that probably been justified because the guy was chasing him, and so that was something completely different. Now, also after this incident happened, a video surfaced of Kyle Rittenhouse uh, attacking a young lady. Two young ladies got into it, and he came up behind one of the young ladies and smacked the mess out of her and started fighting her. He should have allowed those ladies to take care of it, though two young girls to take care of it, and he never should have got involved. So don't be surprised if that video don't come out in trial where they point out the fact that he always put himself in situation he have nothing to do with. Protecting no business shouldn't have had anything to do with him. So yeah. Um uh you say I'm ignoring the other side, you're just not listening to what I'm saying. Gabe, I'm being transparent. No, I'm not ignoring it. You hearing what you want to hear. So uh he didn't shoot the guy in the arm. That guy pulled the barrel while Cal and his finger on the trigger. The guy sealed his fate. Um, I believe someone did say, I think what happened, Cal tripped and fell. Cal tripped and fell. And that's when when he tripped and fell, well, the guy, I think he kind of tripped and fell too. So, like I said, it's been a while since I've read since I watched the video, but since the trial is getting ready to come up, I will be going back, refresh everything. I'm going off of what I remember about it. White on white, it doesn't make a difference if it's white on white crime, black on black crime, black on white crime, white on black crime. It's wrong. The bottom line is Kyle Rittenhouse never should have put himself in that position. He went there with a AR-15, talking about protecting business. He never should have put himself in that position. And I think that's what's going to be what's going to get him. Now, I know when this happened, I know that Trump actually said that uh, called Kyle Rittenhouse a hero. Uh, the dude from Silver Spoon gave most of the money for the bail money while he still was fighting a alleged abuse case against his wife. Now, the thing is, they given all this money, raised up his bail. I think it was uh, between $1 to $3 million cash bond, and they raised that money for him. That's sending the wrong message. Let's hold him accountable because the thing is, if he did not put himself in that position, he never would have been there. But he chose to put himself in that position. And that's where a lot of people not understanding that. Look at the beginning of it. Kyle Rittenhouse bought a AR-15. And I believe in his first when they first interviewed him, they asked where did he get the money from to buy that. He said he used the stimulus check to buy it. Now the stimulus check's supposed to be able to help people pay their bills, but instead he purchased a AR-15 from his stimulus check. Then you turn around, he couldn't buy it himself. One of his friends purchased the weapon. So it's a lot of wrong in this from the beginning. And because there's a lot of wrong in it, well, guess what? When you do wrong, wrong things gonna happen, and you're gonna have to be held accountable for it. And that's what's going on with Kyle Rittenhouse. Yeah, I use the fact that if Kyle Rittenhouse was black, I feel that the police would not have gave him the same treatment. That's my opinion. I'm entitled to my own opinion. But looking at the history of the police, I don't see it going down like that. So that's what I'm saying. Jackson Kramer said that's wrong. Reason the second uh, he pulled the trigger, they tried to stop him on Black Cal would be instance the police response would be after the fact. Don't conflict the two. No, Cal Rittenhouse actually talked to the police before all that happened. Before the first shooting happened, the police came to that business and they praised him, saying, "Hey, we're glad you here." Gave them a bottle of water and everything. Never said anything about the fact that never said anything about the fact why are you here? It's past curfew. Never questioned him about that. And I truly feel that if they would have questioned him and found out he was a 17-year-old kid uh, with an AR-15, they would have been like, something ain't right about this. How did you get that type of weapon? Excuse me. So that's what I'm talking about. When the police first made initial contact with him, that would have been different. Now, since you brought up the fact the police response would be after the fact, after he shot the people, Kyle Rittenhouse walking down the street with the gun up in the air. Police pass right by him and wave. With everybody is yelling, "Hey, he just shot and he just killed someone," and they pass right by him. Now, take it. I don't know if these was the same cops that initially made contact with him before all the shooting happened. If they know that you're not in your same location and you walking down the street with your gun up in the air, and you got people talking about he just shot and killed someone, no. If there was a black man, it never would have happened. It would not have happened. It would have been the same situation. It would have been a different situation because when they first made that initial contact with him, that would have been the end of it before anybody was injured. That's why that judge don't want them to talk about, don't want them to bring up the initial video that the police had with Kyle Rittenhouse. Because anybody look at that video, they're gonna be like, hold on. All of this could have been stopped from the beginning before anybody was injured. So because the police made that initial contact, giving him water, praising him for being there, and later finding out that he killed two people and injured another one. Now you got to look at the fact who's responsible because the police never should have allowed him to stay there. They should have did their due diligence and find out what exactly was going on and let's get him out of here. But because they didn't do that, that's the issue that we're having. So just like anybody else, I say all the time, you do the crime, you do the time. And Kyle Rittenhouse did the crime. And that judge is trying to cover him any way he can. I'm like this. He's on trial for murder. He's not on trial for anything else. And that's another thing I don't get. He's on trial for murder, but that judge don't want to call the two people that he killed victims. Any murder trial, they always call the person that was murdered victims. But this judge don't want them to refer to the victims as victims. That's all I'm saying. Any murder trial, they always refer to them as victims. Um, Jackson Kramer said Kyle was on the ground before the guy pulled the barrel. He wasn't already on the ground. Um, I remember Kyle tripped and fell. And I think the first guy that was shot was right up on him. And as Kyle tripped and fell, that's when he shot him. And I believe, and I could be wrong. Like I said, I haven't watched the video in a while. I believe the second guy reached to get the barrel from him when he shot the second guy. And that's when he got shot. So, if I'm not mistaken, playing the video in my head, I believe that's how it was. Um, in Chicago, where there is more gun violence than anywhere else in the country, the majority of the police force and the mayor is black. Are the black police racist? Respectfully, well, Chicago got issues, and I get tired of folks want to compare Chicago to other situation. And unfortunately, um, when we're dealing with um, issue that have to do with a killing by a Caucasian person, first thing people want to say is bring up Chicago. But Chicago have some issues. Um, I know the mayor. What's her name? Lightfoot. She's not doing her job, and hopefully, the city of Chicago get a stronger mayor in there that can get everything under control. Um, Now I know one of the he's not the police chief, but I forgot his position. But uh, David Brown, he was the chief of police of Dallas Police, and he retired from Dallas. Then he went to Chicago. I forgot it. Think he's a superintendent or something high up. He's not the chief, but um, I don't know the situation of Chicago, but I it's a lot of killings that happen in Chicago that should not happen. And the thing is, why is that taking place? So I feel it's the leadership. Um, need to hold them accountable too. It doesn't make a difference what color you are. If you do the crime, you do the time. That's all to it. I don't care if it's black on black, black on white, white on black. It doesn't matter. When you make that decision to take a life, if it's not right out self defense, well, guess what? You murdered someone, and you need to be held accountable. Um, but in Chicago, I know it's a lot of drive-by shootings that goes on. I've seen the story. I've seen where 50, 60 people being murdered in Chicago over the weekend or something, which it should never happen. But gotta ask you a question: why are crime rates going up? Not just in Chicago, in all cities. Even though here in Dallas, they say our crime have gone down by 7% or something like that. Um, but at the same time, it's gone down by 7%. But we still hear about a lot of crimes that going on in Dallas. People need to be held accountable instead of following this so-called no no snitch. They need to be held accountable. Need to start taking back over our community. It take everyone to take back the community. Kind of like with the kids in Houston. That community have failed those kids. Yeah, and some of them probably know exactly what was going on with the mother. It never should have happened. That community failed those kids. The failed those kids. And said and done, someone gonna have accountable for it. And with Chicago, I'm not in Chicago, but all those murders should not take place. And for those leaders to sit back. Now, of course, you got to also look at the fact how many police officers they have. It's a lot of secret things go allegedly a lot of secret things goes on within the police department where something go down. The police is not there to prevent it. They there for the aftermath. It's only certain time when police may actually be there and witness a crime. Kind of like I read a story earlier. This happened in Dallas over the weekend, um, down in Deep Ellum. Uh, at a pizza place, young ladies at a pizza place. They come out, they standing by the car. Young lady says she had heard about 30 shots that ring out. Well, they caught in a crossfire. They don't know where the shots was going, who they was shooting at, but um, they end up her friend ended up getting shot in the head and is fighting for her life today. Thinks she had a bullet in her license plate and also in her tire. And the policeman just so happened to be there and caught the guy putting the gun up under his in his pants, and he was arrested. And they noticed that the gun was empty, so they did catch that suspect. But the times um, that they can get in there and actually witness something like that is very slim, because these are big cities we are talking about. It's hard to do it. Look at the uh, Internal Affairs Division of any PD, mostly black. I would not say that. I would not say most of them are black because I know I filed a internal affairs report on a couple officers. I guess about 19, 20 years ago. Stand by. Um, you're listening to Speak On It with Kurt Dog. We're talking about the um, Kyle Rittenhouse and some other stories by Chicago Police Department and also other internal affairs. Jackson Kramer just said, look at HTE Internal Affairs Division of any police department, mostly black. I don't agree with that. Most of them are not black. Um, he said, yes, most of them are. Most of them are black. Diversity is a staple of any police department. That's why we have civilian review boards now. I don't know. I'm not going to agree with you on that. Um, most internal affairs and police departments are not black. It's diverse, but all of them are not black. Because look at matter of fact, Mark Arbery, the police department where he was killed at. Um, the internal affairs there is not black. So it's and then it's the guy put a lot of videos online showing where they holding police department accountable. And most of those police department that work in internal affairs down in Florida is not black either. So I'm not going to say most police department internal affairs are black. Even with myself, before we started this segment, I was in the process of saying, I guess about 20 years ago, when I was profiled by the police here in Dallas, um, the internal affairs officers I talked to was not black. So I'm not going to agree with what you're saying on that because it's different things for different cities. Um, if you say, um, well, that's your opinion. Say when it comes to high crimes and gun violence, yes. No, it depends on the cities. Now, if you're going to say most attorney affairs are black, internal affairs are black based on the demographic of in certain cities, like for instance, say Detroit. You're gonna say most of them are black, but that may or may not be true. Until we know for sure, we can assume they're black, but that's not always the case. Um, so we just cannot pinpoint and say most police departments and high crime areas and gun violence are black. No, because at the end of the day, whoever the suspect is, they need to be held accountable. Bottom line. Um, so we can't assume that those are in those cities. It's very diverse, mostly democratic cities with high violence. That's not true. That's not true. I'm not going to agree with you on that. I just use Detroit for the simple fact. Um, Detroit is one of those cities where Motown from, and uh, at one point it was a lot of black citizens there. But even then, they may not have been black. You said most of Detroit, i.e., department is non-white. I don't know. I'm not there. I just assume. But then again, you also got to look at when it come down to Michigan and different states, because with the crisis that went on up in those areas with the water, well, guess what? A lot of those people that lived in those communities have moved out, and a lot of investments have moved in to take over that community, redevelop that community, either remodeling the homes that are there or tearing them down and putting other homes up. And we cannot say, not unless we know 100% sure, that all of these places are black internal affairs, because that would just be assuming, and unfortunately assuming, you know what assuming does when you break it down. It can make an ass out of you and me, and I'm not going to be an ass. So we're not going to assume that. We're only going to stick to facts on this platform. um, I want to pitch this. I love black culture as a black guy. I'm tired of let's do a black version of everything whites that has been done before. Explain that. Uh, okay, you said we don't need a black James Bond. Well, uh, what a lot of people don't, and I don't know what age trains you in, but you know, when you talk about that, talking about I'm tired of let's do a black version. Unfortunately, when we do a black version, we put a little soul in it. Um, kind of like our music. Back in the old days, a lot of our artists was robbed because they didn't have it. They didn't have the laws that are made to do the copyright laws where uh, certain artists would do songs that was number one sellers, and then you would have a white artist to do it, but that black artist didn't get any royalty from it. If you pay attention, and I know it's a movie, but even in the Little Richard movie, the reason why he done it like that because uh, he had the Bing Cosby and other artists to try to copy his song, but the way that he performed, they couldn't do it. They cannot do it. And they tried it, but they couldn't do it because they didn't have the stimulus to be able to perform at a high pace like that. Just like several other songs that people have stolen from our black artists and things like that. So it's a lot more to it. Now, I will say one thing: the honeymoons, Cedric the Entertainer never should have done it. That that was one of the worst movies they could have done. But it's other things that they have done that have been better than the first one. Uh, we don't need a black James Bond. Well, guess what? That's your opinion. It may be somebody excited by seeing a black James Bond. To be honest, hell, I never got into James Bond. Uh, so to be honest with you, I never got into it. Why be the first black man on the moon when we could be the first person on Mars? Well, is it safe to go to Mars? Hey, maybe they don't want to go to Mars. They want to go to the moon. Want to see the moon. Want to see the moonlight up close and personal. So we'll see when black culture set trend. We have Michael Jackson, Michael Jordan. Is always dealing with music and sports. Music and sports. Now, um when the what was that trying to think of the movie. Um Trying to think of the name of that movie when it was exposed that the three sisters um damn, what's the name of that movie? Came out with they was behind the reason why the space shuttle got up to the moon. Even in the movie, they had the black folks working over in a whole separate department. And Taraji, who played the role she played, she had to run damn near a mile just to get to the bathroom, to the other side of the building, to go to the black bathroom. Um, so when it's stuff like that, we don't get recognized for a lot of stuff that we do. It's normally later on in life when people find out the truth. Um, Jazz, blues, rock and roll. Exactly. They've stole a lot of it. People Back then they was able to steal it, but now because of the laws have changed, they unable to steal it. And if they do steal someone music without paying them for it, they could get sued. That's why um uh what's her name got sued about Marvin Gaye's song, and his family won that lawsuit. Um, so it's laws in place like that. Back then, uh, and even some people still feel like the black folks it's not worthy of it. But back then they didn't care. Black folks discovered a lot of things and they didn't get the credit for it. So yeah, you say you're 38. Well, I got some time on you, and uh, exactly, people follow the guidelines, kind of like um, um, back in the 80s during my time. I know here locally, um, now they go by K104, but back then they used to go by KKDA. Well, KKDA started out on AM, so 73 AM. Then they switched it to KKDA on the FM, which was K104. Um, but back then in the 80s, they used to play all type of music on that station. We didn't have 100 different radio stations we have a choice to listen to. They played all type of music, country, rock and roll, R&B. Back then we didn't have rap. Well, it was starting to become popular, but people weren't playing it. But now you got rock and roll station. You have um, jazz station, R&B, rap, hip hop, all these different stations, and you don't. It's like that started out separating people instead of having it together. Uh, well, we've been new on a lot of stuff. People just don't want to give them credit for it. It's not always music and sports. You had Ben Carson. Yes, Ben Carson, brain surgeon, but black culture doesn't celebrate him, despite Cuba Gooding Jr. portraying him in amazing biopsy. Yeah, um, Ben Carson was a great doctor. Um, he was. And I've learned about him in school, but to be honest with you, until he got into the political arena, I thought he was dead because we didn't hear anything else about him. I read about him in school, but didn't hear anything else. I thought he was dead until he got in the political arena. I'm like, wait a minute, Ben Cosby? Is that the same one? And then I did my research, realized he was still alive. And Cuba Gooding Jr., he did a great job on that on that movie he did for him, and it was great. Um, Unfortunately, Cuban getting ready to face trial also. I believe it start up next month. If it's not next month, it's going to be the first of the year because it's a couple of trials getting ready to come out. Cuba Gooding Jr., Justice Morley. Then we here, Chicago have filed charges, have set a trial date for R. Kelly. So it's a lot of stuff finna go down. Um, don't chase the white dream. Be original like Ben Carson, Michael Jackson. In my opinion, the greatest artist that ever lived. I'm a white guy, and Michael Jordan, the greatest baller ever. Well, hey, that's your opinion. Michael Jackson was good at what he did. Yes, he was. Um, some some people would argue between Michael Jackson and Prince. They both was good at what they did. Um, the difference between the two, now this is my opinion, they both was great at their work. Mike could dance, Prince can dance, Mike could sing, Prince could sing. Um, but the difference is Prince wrote his own music. He played instruments. I never had the opportunity to see Michael live in concert. Um, but with Prince, I've seen him several times in concert. And Prince was one of those artists that can be just him by himself and put on a great show. I can't say the same thing with Michael Jackson because I never seen him in concert. They both was great performers, but when it's all said and done, I can only speak on what I personally experienced. Um, so that's the way I see it. But everybody have their own opinion. It depends on who you like the most. They both were great artists. I feel like they both um, died. Well, I can't even say that because God don't make mistakes. He know the book of life before we ever thought about it. Know exactly how long we're gonna be here, how we're gonna die, and when we're gonna die. So I can't even say they was taken at a early age because that's God decision of when it's time for us to go and stay. Um, Said, well, R. Kelly, come on. And yeah, Jordan was incredible. I think my favorite was Dennis Rodman and Michael Jackson beat Prince, but no white guy um, beat any of them. That's my point. Well, see, now that's your point. But Larry Bird was a beast. Now, he wasn't no Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan done some great things. Um, but Larry Bird did good during his time. It's a lot of good artists, a lot of good um, um, athletes that have done some mighty good things in the world. Um, Dennis Rodman, he when he was on his right mind, he did great. Dennis was good if he had the right team around. Dennis was is one of those players when it was time to step up, he stepped up. He had no problem with doing that. So R. Kelly, R. Kelly is a music genius, great music genius, but you have to separate the two. You got to look at R. Kelly, the artist, and R. Kelly, the man. Let me rephrase that. You got to look at R. Kelly, the artist, and Robert Kelly, the man. Two different people. Same person, but two different mindset. Um, Now, R. Kelly, the artist, oh yeah, I used to rock with it all the time. Had plenty of his music. But Robert Kelly, no, I wouldn't even trust him around a goldfish, to be honest with you. Um, so he said, be black, be proud, don't buy into BLM nonsense and equality. Now, see, that's where we're going to have a difference at because apparently you don't realize the problem that a lot of black folks go through. I've been a victim of a racial profile by the police. That's the reason why BLM was actually um, produced, not because someone just wanted to make a name. BLM started because of the injustice that black folks are still receiving today. So that's where we're definitely not going to agree about. So that's just me. I'm not going to agree with you on that because I live as a black man every day, and because of the color of my skin, I could go somewhere and people would look at me different just because of the color of my skin. And not to add that I'm a big man, that's even a bigger problem because they see a big black man, they get nervous. So it's definitely a difference. And even with the job that I do, I still get looked at strange. Uh, so it's definitely a difference. So until you become a black man, uh, that's something you should never say until you experience it. I even had a person tell me not too long ago, talking about, oh, I'm sitting out here in the sun because I just love your skin and I'm trying to look like you. And I look at the low heifer and say, well, you need to have that discussion between you and God. That's a decision God made before you was born. Being out here in the sun ain't gonna make you look like me. And that's some issue you need to take up with God. So yeah, that's the type of stuff we have to deal with. Be yourself, like you've been saying all the time. Be yourself. But that woman should have been herself. Accept the body that you in. Accept what God have given you. But instead, she made that dumbass comment, and I'm like, no. Ooh, I don't know if y'all can hear that, but sound like the storm getting ready to roll through. Said the 90 Dream Team Bulls, all black. Larry was good, Magic was good and black, but the Dream Team was black. Sorry, Larry. Um, Larry was a good player. Yes, he wasn't black, but he was a damn good player. Micah the Man is Micah the artist. Is Micah the Man? Huh? Well, they both named Micah. R. Kelly is R. Kelly, and don't let him around my kids. Exactly. And let the truth be told. Um, I blame no parents because they knew the track he had, but they still took their kids around him to try to get a contract. It's a plenty um, other people out here that is great in music that could have given their kids the same opportunity if your child is actually good. But there's no way I would have taken my child around R. Kelly, knowing his reputation. Uh, Thank you, brother. As always, much respect. Thank you for taking my question. I respect your point of view. I just want to see the black community fight for more than equality and promote black. Yes, we do. That's why um, I talk about supporting black business, small business. When I go and support a black business, I support them, and I let people know I don't want a discount. That's not the reason why I'm coming in there. When you're gonna support a black business, you don't go in there and say, "Well, hey, can I get a discount?" No, I can't. Kind of like my wife had me on probation right now. Uh, I went to a store to a black owned store to pick up one thing. I end up leaving with several things, and I spent a lot of money in that store. But I didn't. I paid a higher price because I know I could have got it cheaper if I went to another store. But I'm supporting my black business. And the young lady kept saying, "Oh, I appreciate you for coming in here today." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm gonna have to explain to my wife why I spent this type of money in here." So, so um, we definitely have to support our own and do better in our community. Thank you, brother. Oh, I'm reading. The other one haven't came up yet. No black version of white, just black always. Been good in the past, and I'm looking forward to it. Thanks. Talk to you soon. Maybe I can call in one day. You're always welcome to call in. But I know tonight we getting ready to get off here because uh, we're expecting some heavy storms tonight, and I can hear is starting to roll in. So if you're in the DFW area, please be careful. Those storms are starting to roll in. I can hear the wind and the rain coming down, so definitely be careful. And also during this time, I know that a lot of people are struggling right now, stressed out, depressed, due to the fact of the pandemic, lost a loved ones, family members sick, or just everyday life. Please do not deal with this by yourself. Help is available. Um, Definitely go and to your HR, ask them about the EAP program, Employee Assistance Program, and you and your family can get free counseling. But you got to make the first step and go to your HR and ask about it, and get you some free counseling. If you're in the DFW area, hit me up. Leave me a message, say, hey, I need information about counseling. I need some help. I can provide help for you. But whatever you do not deal with it by yourself. I take counseling every week, every Tuesday, from 11 to 12. Matter of fact, seen my counselor today. I love it because if not, I will have a different attitude. So definitely do not deal with it by yourself, no matter what you're going through. Um, People ask me before, right after my mom passed earlier this year, the day after I did a show, and they asked me, how can you do a show that soon? Well, I thank God for my counselors, because my mom and I, our birthday is a day apart. So it was hard. It was hard. And I'm not going to lie to you. I still struggle today because when certain things happen in my life, I'm so used to pick up the phone to call her. And then I remember I'm unable to call her. So I still struggle with it. I'm sure I'm not the only one to struggle with it, but I'm open about talking about it. So definitely, if you need counsel, if you in the DFW area, you need a great counselor. Call me. We had them on the shows before, and reach out to them or call me, and I send you their information. Get some help. Don't try to deal with this by yourself. Um, and the way the counseling work, you have to be completely honest with them. You have to be. Don't be like I was for the first two sessions. I go in there, arms folded up, and she asked me question. I give her short answers. But that third session, I go in and talking about it, felt like weight was lifted off my shoulders. I'm in there crying and everything. And ever since then, I knew then I needed to be completely honest with her. And that's what I've done. So definitely get some counseling, regardless of who you are. Um, I always felt like black folks don't need counseling. Well, that's a lie. We all need counseling. Matter of fact, if you go back and listen to the show, the counselors that been on the show have said all of them take counseling. So even the counselors have to take counselors. So definitely get some counseling, get some help. Don't try to deal with it by yourself because right now we are in some trying time. And but you also need to be able to get some professional advice of how to deal with it. Your kids with the pandemic and everything, get some counseling. So I appreciate everyone for tuning in tonight. Continue to follow the show, like, share, tell a friend, click the notification for whenever we come on live. You can be a part of the show, just like Jackson Kramer made some good points. We didn't agree on everything, but that's okay. We had an open dialogue. It's okay for us not to agree on everything. And that's what people got to realize today in this world. We're not going to agree on everything, but we can still have open dialogue about it and start a conversation. Uh, so other than that, I appreciate each and every one of you. I will see y'all tomorrow night if the good Lord say the same. Until then.